Hey family, welcome. If this is your first time joining my channel, I am Ashley B. This is my channel, Healing for Destiny. And today, God has me talking about isolation, your isolation season, how this is tied to your healing journey, what God does during isolation, the purpose of isolation season. What is it? Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. So, one thing that you will begin to go through when you're going through your healing journey is this season of isolation. This has everything to do with like your walk, your overall like journey with God. Because like I said, everything that I talk about on this channel about the healing journey and healing for destiny, it is about healing with God. And in order for you to do that, you have to be on a path with God. You have to be on a journey with him. You have to create a relationship. You have to have a relationship with God in order for him to take you through this healing journey. And one of the first things that God is going to do, it's gonna have to happen because it's necessary, and God does it for a reason, and that is taking you through a season of isolation, meaning he is isolating you from he's isolating you from the world. He's isolating you from people. He's trying to take you away from like old patterns and habits. He's removing certain things. He's just kind of has you. Isolation is just all about God just kind of having you like just to yourself, shutting down from everybody, shutting down from the world. And God does it for a reason. And I'm gonna explain to you why the isolation season is necessary and why it is good, and it helps when it comes to your healing journey. You get on this journey with God when you're trying to heal and God is trying to change you. For a lot of you, you know that you might know that you've been chosen for God for a special assignment. You know that you've been called to do something greater, that you've been called for a higher purpose. And God has to do this. He has to do this. Like that old man, that old person that we were, in order for us to go to the place that God is trying to take us, in order for us to make it to that level that God is trying, the levels, I should say, that God is constantly trying to take us to, we have to change. We have to shed off the old. We have to be stripped. That's what it's all about. Like God is trying to strip us. He's trying to strip you from your old habits, your old patterns, your old belief systems, your old ways of thinking about yourself and all these things. And he does that through isolation. And through isolation, the whole point of God taking us through isolation is because God is trying to draw us closer to him. And in order for us to do that, sometimes we are so distracted by the things of the world. We're so distracted by, you know, the things that's happening around us, our relationships, our friendships, our jobs, just all these things of the world will keep us distracted or keep us from making that time to spend that time with God. And so sometimes God has to like literally pull us out of that, strip us away from all of that, to sit us down and to sit us in silence, to sit us down in order to be able to hear him, in order to be able to understand the plans that he has for us, in order to be able to come into that knowledge, that what it is that he's trying to teach us, what it is that he's trying to get us to learn. And sometimes we're not able to do that if we have all this other stuff going on in the background, all these distractions, all these voices, all, you know what I mean? And so God does it. He does it for several reasons. First of all, like God does it. Isolation, when God puts you through isolation, and a lot of the stuff that I'm speaking on is me. I'm talking about my journey, and I'm gonna get to how everybody's isolation season is different. But I know like God uses isolation to strengthen your faith. Sometimes God will do certain things in your isolation season to get you to rely on nobody but him. Like, you might have had faith in all these other things. You might have had your confidence in all these other areas or places. And sometimes God is like trying to teach you, like, no, I want your faith to be authentic in me. I want you to have a strong faith in me. So I have to take you through certain things. I have to separate you from certain things. I have to remove certain things because I'm building your faith. He's building our faith. He's he's strengthening us. He's pruning us. He's disciplining us. He's showing us things about, this is all a part of that healing journey too. He's showing us things about ourselves. He's taking the scales off of our eyes to be able to see things for what they are, to be able to see the bigger picture. So he has to get us in that space. He has to get us to a place where we're relying on nobody but him. He has to get us to a place where we're able to hear nobody's voice but his. That's what isolation is all about. It's just all about God just wanting us to get closer to him, to hear from him. What does he say? What is his plans? What is he trying to tell us? How is he trying to lead us? How is he trying to guide us? And so he has to take us through that season. He has to separate us and isolate us, and we have to separate ourselves from the world and from people and from these things that God is trying to snatch us away from. And this is another thing that you have to understand about isolation season. Like, everybody's isolation season is different. Like, I know even for me, even before I stepped into, like, God finally brought me to my isolation season, even like hearing from my mentor, like, I know my mentor, for example, she said, like, when she went through her season, God had her, like, literally cutting everything off, cutting everybody off. So the only person that she was talking to during her season was her mom. For everybody, it's gonna be different. And this is how God gave me the best way to explain what I mean by this, and like isolation season and how it's different for everybody, right? This is the best way God gave me. So imagine two like ex-drug addicts. Two drug addicts that has, let's say they've been crackheads, they've been on drugs for the past 20 years, and both of them go into recovery for 3 months, right? They're both drug addicts. The same amount of time they've been hooked on drugs. They both going through recovery. They both gotten to that point in their life where they're trying to recover. They're trying to be delivered from these drugs. They're trying to move on with their lives. They're trying to do what's right now. And so they've gone through that recovery period. They've gone through that. They're now both off drugs, right? Now, these are the two people, two separate people, but both have gone through the same experience, right? Now, for one of those ex-drug addicts, they can leave recovery. They might have gotten what they got in. They might have gotten what they were supposed to get from the recovery, and they can go back in the world. They can go be in the same environments. They could possibly go be around the same people, and the drugs could possibly be sitting right in front of their face. But because of that recovery, because they made it up in their mind, like, no, I don't want this, I'm changing, I'm not doing this anymore, they could very well be in those environments and not be affected by the drugs. They could be in those same places, those very same places that they were before. They could be around it. They could hold it in their hand and be like, no, I'm fine being in these areas. I'm fine being in these environments. There's nothing in me. There's no desire in me to pick this stuff back up again. There's no desire in me for me to do this again. And then on the other hand, the other person, the other drug addict, ex-drug addict, might be somebody that has to, like, flee. They have to flee far away from that. They can't be in those environments. They can't be around those same people that they used to hang around with. They can't, because them being in those environments might make them, like, it might cause them to be weak, and they might, like, want to pick that stuff back up. And so what God has shown me about, like, isolation season and how God, like, changes us and does certain things, it really all depends on you. You have to know, you have to know your strength. You have to know your weaknesses. You have to know you might be that person that can be around those certain environments and still, like, be like, you know what? No, God, this is, like, I'm rocking with you. I don't care about, it don't matter which environments I'm in. I'm still gonna rock with you. This is not gonna turn me around and make me want to go backwards or make me want to go back to the same things that you delivered me from. And vice versa. Another person, like, You just have to know you just have to know you have to know your weaknesses. And sometimes it's not about you not really being delivered. It's not about you not being saved. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just sometimes you might know, like for example, I'm gonna give you another example. Like, say you're somebody that has struggled with like sex and lust, and you know that that's something that God has delivered you from. You know that that's something that God doesn't want you. But let's say that's been a battle your whole life. You've just been somebody that just wants to have sex. You just have this lustful spirit and you want to have sex. You know, you don't care who you have sex with. And when God delivers you from that, that might be something that you have to run, because you know how much that might have been a battle, or you know how much that might have been a struggle for you to be delivered from that, how much you have to go through for God to deliver you from that. And so for you, you might be somebody, you have to stay away from men. You have to stay away from women. You have to stay away from those environments that might entice you to want to have sex, to want to lay down. You just have to be real with yourself. The thing about isolation is God knows. That's why everybody's season will be different, because God knows what's necessary for us. He knows the type of season. He knows the type of process that he has to take. Everybody, he knows, like, my process is not going to be the same as your process. God knows what he has to do in my process, because he knows what he has to deliver me from. He knows what he has to snatch me away from. He knows, as opposed to somebody else where your process might not be the same as me. Like, so for my process, for example, God kind of did do the same that I was saying with my mentor. He did have to take me away from everybody and everything. I went through a season where God had me like not watching TV at all. God had me not watching TV at all. The only thing that I was filling myself with was just like sermons and like motivation. Like, he had to do that for a reason. He was trying to take my mind away from filling it with all this stuff. He had to take me away from watching TV, because those type of things he knew what he had to do. Those type of things were not what he was trying to do in my season, what he was trying to do in my healing. It was certain things that I was watching. It was certain things that I was filling my mind with, that God is like, no, like, I have to take you away from this, because this is adding to that negative belief system you have, or this is adding to like emotions and feelings that you're having. So I have to snatch these things away from you. I have to isolate you from these things, because I want you to be able to gain the knowledge that I'm trying to get you to gain. I want you to be able to be at a place where you're able to hear me. Sit in silence. Turn everything off. Turn the TV off. Turn the radio off. Turn the world off. Turn these conversations off, so you could just be in a place where you're just able to hear me, hear my voice. And that's what I'm saying. Everybody is different. God might not tell you that you gotta fall back from your family, fall back from certain friends and everything. He might have your isolation might be different. It might just be about turning everything off and staying off social media for a certain amount of time and staying in your body. Like, it's different, but it's all the same. God is using the isolation to draw you closer to him. He's using the isolation to cut off all these negative belief systems that you've had, to change your mind, to get you, in a place where you're able to hear, you're able to start finding yourself, right? Like, that's what healing is all about. You're able to start healing. You're able to start finding yourself. You're able to start going within. You're able to start understanding your identity, who you are, like sitting in God's presence, understanding, like, God, who am I? Journaling, you know what I mean? All these things that cloud your mind, these things that the anxiety, you know what I mean? The hurt, being able to just sit down and journal, write that stuff out, put that stuff out on paper. God uses isolation to start birthing our purpose, birthing businesses, birthing things that he wants us to start doing, giving us ideas, giving us downloads, putting us in a place where we're able to, like, wow, that might be the season where he's birthing your book. You might have never been in a place where you're able to write a book, because you work all the time. You got all this noise in the background. You got all these distractions. But God might take you through that isolation season for you to sit down and start writing that book. That might have been the very thing, the very season that God has to take you through to force you, well, not force you, but to push you, you know what I'm saying, for you to be able to sit down and to like really sit and focus and birth that book, birth that business, birth that plan, birth what it is that God, those ideas that God is trying to sprout out of you, raise out of you. That's the overall purpose of like why God has to isolate us, why he has to separate us. It's all about him trying to draw us closer to him, him getting us into a space where we're able to come into the knowledge, we're able to gain wisdom, we're able to gain discernment, we're able to, you know, just be close to him, sit in his presence, understanding what he has to say about us, understanding, you know, taking the time out to give him the hurt, give him the pain, so he can start working in our hearts, so he can start doing the healing, working on the healing within us.